let it. And we're up. Gareth Wyn Jones, you're a hard man to get off the mountain. Welcome to my podcast. Last time it was pigs. This time it was broken down wheels, technology. So I have to start by just thanking you for being here, taking the time, coming on, because farming's hard graft, right? So actually you guys coming and sitting with us is amazing. So thank you for coming on and spending the time with us today.
No problem. We had a major fire here last night. So
I saw.
Really, really big part of the mountain burnt. So it's been a little bit hectic getting stuff sorted. And we've got a meeting at 10:30. We're going to be taking people up and assessing the damage. And thank God it rained. So somebody up above is watching after us.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it out now? Has it stopped? Because I saw.
Yeah, well, it's near enough 100% out, but it looks like more rain later on, so it should be okay.
Yeah. So you haven't been up there yet to see what's the damage?
No, I've taken 10 lambs into the abattoir this morning. So we were on the road just after 5 o'clock, and then back and get other animals sorted, and then in with you now, and then back up there after.
And then back out. Amazing. So. Here's why I want to speak to you, because some people go, you're a podcast called Financial Freedom with Alex Louise. Why are you speaking to farmers? And I'm an ex-chef. You probably don't know that. So I've worked in all kinds of restaurants. I'm passionate about food, and my mission now, I bought houses so that I didn't have to cook anymore, and I now coach people and help them follow their dreams. Actually, is what I'm really passionate about. The money side of it is fairly insignificant, really. That comes later. And I'm passionate about helping farmers. And I thought what I needed to do was buy a livestock farm. And my husband and I's mission has been to keep flipping houses, to buy a livestock farm, to get down and dirty with you guys and jump into the foray.
Well,
what I've realised, and actually the house that we're in now, which was going to be our latest flip, has made us realise that we love this house. So I'm looking out over a vegetable garden. We're getting chickens in the spring. And actually what I've realised from speaking to farmers and being in this house is that I can help in different ways. I don't need to come and, be in the farming with you. Actually, it would take longer, because if I come and be in the farming, I'd be a complete idiot. I'd be a nightmare. What am I doing? And all the rest of it. And actually,
it's taken my family 375 years to get into this position on the same farm.
Exactly.
So,
right.
I hope you're in it for the long game.
Exactly. So, and I come from my grandparents were both farm vets, and their parents had a farm. So it's there, but it's not, I didn't grow up on a farm. And what I've realized is that I can help by doing what I do, which is coaching people and helping people make money and helping people succeed. And actually, the reason I wanted to speak to you was to actually say, what do you guys need? What's missing? How can us that aren't farming help you? How can we, and there's the obvious things, right? Like we can buy from our local farmers and that kind of thing. But actually, I want to know from you what you think how can those of us that don't farm really support farmers? And I don't mean in a just buying your produce. I mean we're up against big business and all of the shitstorm that's going on around, land ownership, big business, monoculture. I'm not even sure we've got, let's just call it the ultra processed vegan food movement that I think probably you and I both agree.
The big reset, as some people call it.
All of that. I mean, let's just put all of that as a catch-all and say, how do we help you up against, it's like David and Goliath, right?
Yeah. And I think we look at it from different angles. As a farmer, I feel frustrated on mainstream media that farmers are blamed for, especially livestock farmers, climate change, nature depletion, loss of all kinds of things, sewerage in rivers, farmers are blamed. And we look at what we're doing, we're not putting that sewerage in the river. It's the big multinational water companies that are dumping it off. Governments are signing it off. But again, farmers are easy targets. We look at what we produce, as in livestock agriculture. My family's been on this farm 375 years. I know these ruminants are imperative for our soil health and our soil fertility, and everything starts from the soil. My real problem is that a lot of people have lost connection with food production, with farming, and everything is plastic wrapped in a supermarket, and the shelves are full, and it's affordable food, and everybody then, thinks it's there at a drop of a hat. Well, it doesn't work like that. There's thousands of family farms out there, working hard to produce food, and in regenerative, sustainable, and environmentally friendly. By a long way, we're not perfect. I'm not saying that. And there's ways and means we need to change and adapt. But blaming us for the climate and the situation and everything that's going on is wrong. Because you're going to need a farmer either once, twice, or 3 times a day. You'll need a financial advisor maybe once or twice a year, a lawyer, a doctor the same, an accountant, but you're going to need that farmer every single day of the year. And people need to understand that, because this is the truth. And if we can take things back 30, 40, 50 years, everybody would have a connection with farming. You've only just got one generation that your parents were vets, your grandparents were vets, and these are the building blocks for us as farmers. So we need to be reconnecting. I think that supermarkets, governments have kept that divide. They don't want us to be connected too closely to them. Now, let's look at a few examples what's happened recently. If we look at Sri Lanka, so the Sri Lankan government made an idea of going totally organic, stop artificial fertilizers, stop pesticides. Wow. That country imploded. That country went hungry. That country just really lost its whole sense. And people were rebelling. People were on the streets because there wasn't any food. Interest rates went through the sky. Yeah. And this was all to do. And this is farmers in Sri Lanka that I'm talking to. These are people that are working the ground, not your politicians, not your big wigs in your COP20 bloody whatever it is. But these are people that are the ones that are producing the food. Because it's not Tesco's, it's not Asda, it's not Aldi, it's not M&S that's producing that food. It's a farmer. And, there's a food chain. There's a food chain in that. We'll give you another example. Have a look at what's happening in the Netherlands. So the Netherlands now are being pushed, the farmers in the Netherlands, by government, again, policy, for them to stop producing as much food. And the Netherlands is a massive exporter of food, big producer, a very, very fertile land with a lot of livestock. Them farmers are under so much pressure. They're out in their tractors. They're demonstrating. We're not hearing it on mainstream media because mainstream media don't really support agriculture. They see us as the bad guy. So we go to New Zealand. It's happening the same in New Zealand and Canada. And I think we'll be next because this world is sleepwalking into food shortages. And if people don't see it, they are absolutely crazy. And I'm telling you that now. So how do we reconnect? How do we add value to what we're doing? I've diversified on this farm. I do immersive tours. This morning we've been taking some lambs to the abattoir, which will come back, feed my family, friends, and people that want to get involved and buying it. And, it's keeping that local food chain, that sustainable food chain, and adding value, taking away the power from the supermarket and giving it to us because we deserve it. We're the guys, or we're the people that are out there 365 days a year producing that food. And it's literally when you see the supermarkets taking that milk from them farmers, not a milking farmer, taking that, and they take the cream off the top, okay? They take the profit. Every single drop of that milk has come through hard work, and that's what's frustrating, and especially at this moment in time. So as a financial advisor, you would see what's going on. We've got big banks, we've got multinational companies coming into Wales and buying family farms so they can offset their carbon emissions from somewhere else. So places like Heathrow airports, German companies are coming here, planting trees in Wales in some very, very fertile areas so they can say, hey, do you know what? We have offsetted our carbon over there. But we can carry on doing what we want. Every time we do that, we take another acre of land out of food production. Solar the same. Solar farms popping up everywhere. And I'm not an NIMBY, I'm not against it. But what I will tell you is, why are all these solar panels going on? Every single industrial unit, every factory we've got, that's where it should be, not on agricultural land. And this is really, really important, because if people don't address it now, we'll be too far down the road, because that's where the problem lies. Sorry for the phone going. Everybody
That's okay. It's real life, folks. This is what it's like.
I was on a roll there a bit, wasn't I?
No, it's great, and I think it's, you know, it's like, even you just saying, why aren't solar panels on the top of factories? I'm like, it's so like, once you've said it, it's so obvious. But until someone says it, it's like, oh my God, why is that? That's nuts.
Yeah. If you took the land mass we've got on factory roofs, on, you know, commercial housing, you know, everything in this country could be a lot more sustainable. We have seen what happened in Ukraine. You know, there was grain shortages. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. It's a fantastic, fertile country that produces grain, sunflower oil. 80% of the world's sunflower oil comes from Ukraine. All that was stopped. Now, if this country isn't intelligent enough, the people that are running it, our prime ministers, our MP, if they're not intelligent enough to understand how imperative food security is in this country, they are absolutely bonkers. And that's why I'm saying, you know, we're sleepwalking into food shortages, and we're hearing them, oh, let's open another trade deal, let's bring imports, and let's, well, look, if that country's struggling, the next country's struggling, and that's what the problem is going to be. We really need to start addressing it. Bring our food back to the people. A farming food revolution, building a better Britain on our bellies. Okay? So seasonal, local, regenerative agriculture has to be the way forward. And wasting less food. And for us as an industry to reconnect with our consumer and the people that are going to the shops and buying our food, and even selling directly to them. All these things are relevant.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so as a farmer and knowing lots of farmers, what's the biggest barrier for you guys actually connecting with your customer? Because that for me is the biggest thing. I mean, I remember actually messaging you years ago, way before I was doing a podcast and what I'm doing now, after seeing you on the TV in I think it was The Hill Farmer. Was that the name of the program? It was years ago, right? And I remember messaging on Facebook going, how do I buy your lamb? You know, the program. And you said most of it, I think, was going to Spain at that point. Is that right? They like the smaller.
And still, the majority of the Welsh lamb does still go abroad.
And then the lamb comes from New Zealand to come here. So if I order from Riverford Farms and then local farmers and butchers in Abergavenny, which is near where we live. And then also I do a Sainsbury's order for stuff that, you don't get in your greengrocer type thing. Yeah. And on Sainsbury's, the lamb says New Zealand or British lamb. And I refuse to buy it for that very reason. I'm like, I don't want lamb from New Zealand. But how do we as consumers and also people who are passionate about farmers, how do we help you guys sell direct to consumers? What's the barrier for you when you're farming, not in sales and marketing? What's the biggest issue?
The biggest barrier is, when you have a lot of lambs that come ready, so they're like peas, so they come ready at a certain time in the year.
Yeah.
To find a market for all them is very, very difficult. And I think, that's the situation we are in. Smaller family farms years ago might have had 100 or 200 sheep, and 3 abattoirs, 3 butchers in this village. That's what we had. I've had to go 20 odd miles now to the local abattoir, and that's costing you diesel. I'll have to pick them lambs up and redistribute that. So it does take a lot of time. And then when you ask somebody, it's £100 for a lamb, well, it's a lot of money for people. So people would rather go into a butcher and buy a leg and I think if you can do that, it's brilliant. Take it back, because you can walk into any butcher shop, or any farm shop and ask them where that food has come from. And I bet you 95% of the time, they will know exactly where everything's come from. And there's some great little retailers. So we can take a little bit of that power back. But the supermarkets aren't going away. They're not going away.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
As consumers, your majority of people will go into them. So we need to have a look at how them supermarkets are selling this stuff. So a good example is milk. So they use milk as a loss leader. So they use milk, and sell it cheaper than water so they can get people through the door so they can sell other stuff. Well, that shouldn't be happening. We should be having a fair price for what we're producing. So the supermarkets should be doing that. And some of these big supermarkets have done it. Price of production, plus they'll give the farmer X amount. But these are contracts that not everybody's in them. That's what the consumer should be asking. How much is the farmer getting for that pint? How much is the supermarket taking out of that profit? Because a lot of that, when you see it, is very, very difficult because it's smoke and mirrors, and people are very, very clever within the business side of things to be able to, push their story out there and sell their stuff. But I think the British consumer is very, very supportive. And if we can reboot that, reconnect people about how to cook seasonally, how to cook food locally. One of my great feelings is to go into my little veg plots down here, pick every little bit and piece of veg, know that lamb, know that beef, know that pork, everything's been produced here. Everything's sustainable, everything's regenerative, and everything is healthy, nutritious, because it's fresh, straight out of the ground. And you feed your family. And when I get friends round, they come and they taste, the foods, the soups, and the lobscouse. We have a lovely little like a soup, a cowl we have in Welsh with either lamb or beef, or sometimes I put both in. And then we have all our little veg, and in a winter's day, when you've been on that mountain and you come in,
there's nothing better.
Oh, it's like the food of gods, and sometimes these simple things, and it can be cheap meat that's going into that, the cheaper cuts. And it's difficult because people are struggling. People are struggling with food bills. People are struggling with energy costs. People are struggling with mortgages. It's not going to be an easy ride, but we have to work together. And if you lose that farmer out of the equation, that farmer's gone for good. If you lose that land from the equation, from the greenwashing, as in the rewelding and the planting trees, the solar farms, the building of houses as well. I know we need houses. I know we need new builds. That will happen, but we have to be really, really careful of where we put in these things. Because I'm never against planting trees. I've planted 40 trees on this farm this year, but every single one of them trees has been fruit trees. They are going to be delivering food for my children and my children's children. And that's what we do. We're not in this for the short term. We're in it for the long run. My family's been on this farm 375 years. And if you come up, I can show you what we've done here. We've got a big hill fort behind us that the Celts used to live. The roundhouses are still there. Wow. 6,000 years ago, people were in my back fields digging out axe heads. That's not me that's telling you. This is Gwynedd Archaeology. They've been here for 4 years. This is the first ever axe factory. Man has worked the land. Man understands, or people understand, humanity understands how to grow food in a sustainable way. And when we get too big and monocultures and we're just spraying and talking about veganism as the way forward to save the earth, that's a personal choice. I will never go against anybody that believes that their diet is better for the planet. But when they start to mislead other people in thinking, with the propaganda and the big corporates with their oat juices and the soya juices, and I won't call it milk, but because it isn't milk. All this food and rubbish is making people ill. And I'm not just talking about health wise. I mean, their mentality is it's crazy because they're believing that they're not killing anything to produce that food. As a farmer that does both, I know there were more creatures dying for me to get the veg on the plate than there is for the meat.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of scale? So when you are sending lambs to slaughter and they're going out to Spain, what kind of, because what I'm interested in is, I go, well, in my head goes, well, where do we start? I go, okay, you're still sending lambs out to Spain because you're really freaking busy. You've got two. So what kind of volume are we talking about dealing with, and what could be put in place so that stays here?
Yeah, you've got 10 million sheep in Wales to begin with.
Wow.
So that'll be
there's a statistic, ladies and gents.
There's quite a lot of lamb there, isn't there? So you can see why Wales is a big exporter of top quality protein. And the Spanish, the Portuguese, the French, the Italians, they love it because they know what they're getting. I think as well,
go on.
I think as well, we need to look at it because the lamb is smaller. So the mountain lamb will be, most probably an average of about 13, 14 kilos. Some will go to 15, but they're a smaller lamb. So it costs you exactly the same to kill a big lamb as it does for a small lamb. So profitability for supermarkets, they'd rather buy a bigger lamb and the profit, which is business sense. You don't blame them for that, but
sure,
we should be looking for a way that we can utilize Welsh lamb, smaller mountain lamb as well. So maybe the Brecon Beacons did it once. They did it with I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but they did like a QVC channel, and they were selling lamb on that, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. We here on the Carneddau Mountain, there's 22 farmers in our PLC. We're a public limited company. We worked with a big supermarket in the beginning, about 10 years ago, and the first year was fine. I'll be honest with you, it worked really well. Then when the smaller lambs came into the market, they were going, oh no, you have to change the way you farm. You have to have bigger lambs. Well, we can't do that. Our land does not, it won't sustain a bigger sheep on the mountain. These creatures are born and bred here for hundreds of years because they're the best at what they're doing at, turning very poor vegetation into top quality protein. So we all have to adapt. And I think if we can get collectives, and corporates, to work with us,
with you,
as in, selling our things, because corporations in New Zealand are fantastic. They've even taken their Silver Fern is an example. They, put their own money in. Farmers did that, and then they built their own abattoirs and got their own brand, and that's what they did. They sold it as a brand, and then it brings the power back. There's a few of these really good companies that do it. South Carnarvon Creamery is another one. A lot of farmers have got money in them kinds of things, and I think when we do that, we bring the power back to ourselves. And if we can do that.
What's the biggest barrier to doing that? What's the biggest barrier to doing that? So what stops you and how many farmers are there locally, did you say? 20?
Well, there's 22 on our society, 22. But our PLC, but there's hundreds of farmers, thousands of families.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but if we just started with you and those 22.
Yeah.
And because you have a huge platform, right? And it's worth mentioning now that your handle, you've been hacked. And actually there are people out there, it's just beyond belief that the hacker who hacked your account actually messaged me this morning, because I messaged the wrong account because it's so similar. The one is at the end now, not at the beginning of your name, right? So it's also worth mentioning, everyone, that it's Gareth Wyn Jones 1 is your account, correct?
Now on Instagram,
to follow you, because actually your main account was hacked and you can't get it back.
I had 18,000 followers on that, and this guy, as long as he's not trying to sell lamb to people, I'm quite happy.
Well, I mean, it's like, come on, let's. Anyway,
but again, we've got a base. The guy that does the social media stuff for me, he's brilliant. We've got 97,000 followers on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge platform to then sell to. But how do you take your platform, the fact that you are clearly inspiring loads of people, and take your lambs that are currently leaving the country and actually get them to all your followers? What's the biggest thing that's in the way of you not doing that? Is it the volume? Like how many sheep are we talking about in one go that you would normally sell bulk and wholesale?
Okay, so last week we sold most probably 300 lambs.
Okay.
And the week before, something similar.
Yeah.
So we're shifting quite a lot of lambs on a weekly basis now. To have the coordination of selling, it's great taking a few to the local abattoir. We can take 20, 30 there. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But our grass comes and our lambs come together.
Yeah.
Would there be a way? New Zealand have looked at ways of like backpacking them so they don't freeze and they chill them, and that can store them for long periods of time without you losing the freshness, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But shifting 300 lambs, locally to people, I think would be difficult because you have to take a lorry full of lambs to an abattoir, and that abattoir would have to, cut them, box them, and then get them out to people somehow. I think the technology's there, and I think the customers there. It would be making the logistics work and making it affordable. That's what supermarkets have done. We're literally one trick pony. That's maybe the hard thing sometimes is that you would struggle to sell that kind of volume over a short window.
Yeah. And so here's a question, because the mechanics of the abattoirs, right? Because here's the bit where I'm interested. I'm going, oh, that sounds like a fun game I'd like to play, because if I could make the difference between you having to sell and ship to Spain and actually going, where's the problems, what's needed, can we make this happen? However it happens. Like at the moment, we buy our lamb from Lorna, who's up in Abergavenny. She's a farmer that my mum knows. And we buy it frozen. I say to her, I'll have whatever you've got. I don't care if it's a half a lamb, whatever you've got, I'll have it. We eat through it, and then we go back and we get the next lot. And to the point as well where, they didn't deliver it. When I had a half lamb, there was no liver and kidney. I was like, where's the offal? She was like, most people don't want it. We feed it to the dogs, or we get rid of it elsewhere. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the best bit. But anyway, that's exactly. I could talk all day about that as a chef. But so what I'm interested in is the abattoir will slaughter, cut, package. Will they then send out it to individually? Like, is there a way then of having a courier? So let's use the example of 300 sheep, or lambs. So you then go, okay, well, we've got 300 this week. Who wants one? And at some point you have to go. Us as consumers, we have to be on board, I believe, with educating. I spent a couple of days on Joel Salatin's farm in America. Have you heard of Joel Salatin?
Absolutely, massive farm. Yeah.
So I spent a couple of days out there because I was going to do an internship there and I couldn't get the visas to go and spend the time out there. But anyway, I still went out there, spent a couple of days, very inspired, read all his books, yada, yada, yada. Because, the plan was to be a farmer, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is they educate their customer and they say, we need you to buy a bigger freezer because I'm going to use chickens as an example. Yeah. They only grow chickens for cooking, not the egg chickens. They grow the chickens, spring through summer, slaughter, and everyone buys the number of chickens they think they might need for the winter because it's about education as well, isn't it? Yeah. And they say chickens grow best in the summer. In the winter, it's snowy. I went out in October and we were, doing fencing and all the rest of it. All the animals are coming in or going to slaughter. And so they've educated their customer base to support them by buying freezers. So the chickens get slaughtered. People order 5, 10, 15, whatever it is. Over the summer, they can have one a week. But then it's like at the end of the summer, it's like, well, do you want chicken for the winter or not? And obviously at that point as well, switching to beef and lamb really makes sense because the lambs have been out on the grass all summer and now they're ready to eat through the winter. So for me, there's a piece about us as consumers being educated and saying, do you know what? The best way we can support a farmer is to actually take a half a lamb or a whole lamb and do our budgeting accordingly and then eat it over the time, over the next couple of months, which is how we do. But when it comes, this is the bit where I don't have the knowledge from the slaughterhouse, presumably they want somebody to come along, take the 300 lamb and do whatever they want with them. They're not interested in sending out a
No,
box here and a box there.
no.
Because then,
And that's why you get the supermarkets, because supermarkets have got the power to buy, and they can come in and then they can squash the prices down. So you can see how this food chain has been taken away from the people that are producing the food.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it makes it easy, right?
By the retailer, really. So there is ways and means as well. I think maybe that we can, because our system is not like everybody's system. So when our lambs and our grass starts to go down, what we do then as well, we sell what they call store lambs. So my father will go on a Saturday to a sale now every week with about 60 lambs that aren't quite fat enough, or quite, in prime condition to go into that market as in prime lambs. So he takes them there, and they're called store lambs. Then there's lowland farmers then that are there, which purchase these lambs, and they will keep them. They will keep them. Sometimes they'll keep them to January, February, March, because by the time you get to that time of the year, then a lot of our grass is gone because our ewes are in now. They're not on the mountain. But then that window then for them is they add value to that product, because them lambs at the back end are usually worth a few quid more. It's just before the spring lambs come from, the ones that are born in December. So there is markets, and we've gone more sustainable about being able to supply lamb, mutton, all the year round. And I think that's a good thing. So farmers, are not all putting their eggs in one basket, literally. Everybody's working together to make sure that we're able to keep that supply chain going. And yes, we need that European market, I think, because when these lambs do come in, the Portuguese love lamb at Christmas. Then our lamb prices seem to go woof up then. We've got people in Hong Kong, Dubai, Hubby Cymru have just been out there doing promotional work now with a guy, Chris, who's a fantastic chef. He's been out there, really, really successful. It's a prime product. It's one of the best products in the world. Welsh lamb is premium, and if we need to be adding value to it, we need to advertise it. And I think the companies like Hubby Cymru are doing a good job. And is it going to be affordable for a lot of people in Great Britain? And that's not being disrespectful, because if you look at, the cost of living crisis and a lot of people living in inner cities, they're on a breadline anyway. Lamb and mutton, maybe lamb is more of a premium than it is, and a massive treat. And it's difficult to get that balance, and we have to be honest with our consumers and customers, because it's not the cheapest meat, but it's very nutritious, very tasty, and a fantastic treat.
Absolutely. And how many? So I'm still going. My head is going in the numbers. So if you do 300 a week, do you do that all? How often does that happen? So what? How many lambs are you talking about in a year from your farm? Just your farm?
Okay, so we've just got under 4,000 breeding ewes. So it's quite a lot of lambs we'll be selling. I'm in a partnership with my cousins and my father and uncle. So, they're not just mine, they're all of our lambs. So, as a business, we have to look at where the highest price is. So if, let's give you an example. So if Dunby on that week giving, X amount per kilo for it, we phone them up, we ask for prices, and then, we just say, right, let's get a shipment now. It's been a little bit more sticky this year. Before, it wasn't a problem. You just phone them up and they say, now you've got to book them in about 2 weeks in advance. You've got to get everything ready. And then we've just brought our sheep off the mountain. So we need every single bit of grass now. So in the summer, our sheep are allowed onto the mountain to graze freely with their lambs. So during the winter months, we have to look for grass for them. So the quicker we get rid of our male lambs, because the girls are kept for breeding for next year, the quicker we get rid of our male lambs, the better it is for us then, grass-wise and stress-wise.
Yeah.
You know, that we're able then to sustain everything without going to be spending big money on buying in extra licks or silage or however you want to look at it. So it's a business model that you have to get right. And margins can be tight and they can be, you know, a little bit disheartening some years. But the last 3 years, it's been quite good. You know, the price for lamb has been good. Mutton's okay. And I think we're very lucky in this country. We've got a big ethnic market for it. You know, a lot of people, you know, with the Ramadans and things, you can see then price fluctuates. They go up. And for Eid, you know, all these things, your farmers are looking at the Muslim calendar sometimes. Now it sounds crazy, but looking at the Muslim calendar.
But it's a huge population, right? It's important. It's a big
lamb and beef, and big lamb and mutton eaters, you know, and goat. So they're a big part of what we need. You know, they are buying our product. So, you know, we can't look away from that. We can't look away from even the Middle East. You know, New Zealand are cutting back. They've gone a lot out of sheep into dairy. So there's a lot less lamb and a lot less mutton in the world at the moment.
Yeah, interesting. Gareth, I'm aware you have to go, and I don't want to have you be late for what you've got to go on to next. I would really love to carry this conversation on if you'd like to, and I would really love to at some point come and visit you up there if you don't mind. And just
your lamb dinner.
Amazing. I watch your video. I just love that you do the cooking and the whole thing so that it connects all the way through.
Oh God, don't say that. The wife will absolutely murder me. I do take a thunder away sometimes, but he's a great cook. But you know, slow cooked, and I like to be proud of what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think, you know, when you see some of the stories within the mainstream media and some of these environmentalists, how they're trashing livestock agriculture, it's hard. So I want to put a positive spin on it, and you know, I love life. My hashtag is living the dream, because I feel very, very fortunate. I've got a beautiful wife, 3 healthy children. I do something every day I really enjoy, and I'm passionate about it. I'm honest about it, you know, and I want to fight for my children's future and everybody else's future on the land. And that's really important because, you know, we're a small minority, and that's been quite quiet because we just carry on with what we do.
Yeah. Well, you're working hard, right? You haven't got time to be out there. You know, I mean, the fact that you've given me 40 minutes of your time today, I'm really grateful, because you guys are freaking busy, right? You haven't got time to be out there doing all of that. You've got livestock to look after and, you know, hard graft to do. So it's, you know, when you've got your head down and you're getting on with what you want, but there's a narrative that's going against you, it takes everything, doesn't it?
Let's remember as well, you know, suicide rates in agriculture, it's at a massive high, 3 a week. You know, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of negativity towards the industry, which hasn't been helping. And I think we have to address that. We have to, you know, start talking about our mental health issues. We have to start talking about, you know, let's just take fertilizer into one example. So, you know, 2 years ago, you'd have been buying fertilizer for £240 a tonne. It's now over £1,000 a tonne. Fuel would have been red diesel, 45 pence. It's £1. You know, feed for the cattle. All these things have doubled. So when you're seeing farmers, you know, getting a good price, we're still in the same position as we were.
It's still not that great.
And that's the difficult thing, you know, because people look at a lot of farmers always driving around in a new tractor. Well, you know, we have to have these machines to be able to produce the food that everybody's eating, and everything, you know, runs around money. We know, and we understand that, but all we're asking for is a fair price for what we're producing, so we can carry on investing in the future, you know, to keep feeding Britain in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way. But don't take the power away from the farmer. Don't give the governments and the environmentalists the opportunity to take that power, because you're the important people here. The consumer, the customer are always the important people. And if you stand with farmers and back farmers every chance you get, then them MPs will listen. Then them prime ministers will listen. Then them presidents will listen, because the power is always with the people. And that's why I'll come back to, we need a farming food revolution in this country. And we need to get back to stop wasting food. We need to get back to regenerative agriculture, seasonal food production, and start teaching this in school, and give children an educated choice. Take them to an abattoir if they're old enough. Take them, to see how milk's produced, how pigs are produced, how veg is produced. And don't let them believe that nothing will die for a vegan diet. Because I will tell you, every single time we're putting something on that plate, something will die. Otherwise, you'd be misled by a propaganda, and these multinational corporations are trying to take that power away, because they want you buying fake foods from factories, not from farms. And that's what we need to stop. So get behind British agriculture, or get behind world agriculture. That's really important. This is all a bigger picture. This is globally, and it's not a conspiracy theory. Okay, I'm not pushing things. I am telling you what I'm seeing every single day. And when you've got a platform like me, you get people coming and asking questions and wanting to talk. And if you read some of the messages I get off farmers, and how down they feel, and how, many times they've been kicked in the balls by government, by supermarkets, by, environmentalists, instead of working with them. It's bloody hard. So that's why I'm passionate about it. That's why I'm doing these things, and trying to fly the flag and get people to back British agriculture.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing. And I think what I'd second on that, I heartily agree with everything you say. And I think there's two things that really come up for me that if people, when people are listening to this, is to really remember is that every single pound we spend, it matters. Every single pound votes with what happens. And the more we spend our pounds on, knowing where it's come from and local. And when we add into that, I think it was Jamie Oliver or Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, I can't remember. It's one of the chefs that do a lot of campaigning as well for good food, is that food doesn't have ingredients. Food is ingredients. And if you're buying anything that has ingredients, it's not food. No. And that if we as consumers can buy ingredients and buy lamb and buy vegetables and buy the raw materials to make food, between doing that and choosing where we spend those pounds, actually, you're right, we get a revolution. Yes, and I think people feel like they don't matter. People feel, people don't vote in the general election because they think it won't matter. It matters. Every pound we spend matters. Everything we do matters. And I just want to thank you for being one of the farmers to speak out, and for being the face of it, because like you said earlier, you guys are grafting. It's not natural for you to come onto a podcast like this, or be on the TV, or share and be a presenter. You guys are farmers. So actually it takes everything for you guys to do that, the ones of you that are. So I just really want to thank you for kind of being approachable, for coming on here, for talking about this, so that people can understand, because someone listening to this who's disconnected from their food, you'll change their whole life, not just the food they eat. You'll change their health, how their kids are, how their families function, how they sit around a table and eat instead of buying a ready meal and eating it in front of the TV. I mean, what you're doing and what you're inviting people into is life-changing. It's not just about food and farming. It's about the entire way that we live our lives as human beings.
My father's 86. He works 7 days a week, okay?
Yeah.
And he always says, your health is your wealth.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's and if you're going to have a nice car, you're not going to pour petrol in it. And this is what we really need to be thinking of, what we're putting in our bodies every single day. I'm 55, I work 7 days a week the same. Yeah. I'm pretty fit, I'm pretty strong. I don't have any health problems. But it's all to do with what we're putting in ourselves, what we're putting in our bodies. So we need to be really, really careful of over-processed crap. I'm going to be honest with you. I look at some of the ingredients and some of these foods, and I think, how the hell are we in this situation? We have an obesity problem in the UK and we have a diabetes problem. Well, it's all to do with the sugars and the craps that we're putting into our bodies. Take it back. Take it back to simple seasonal food, and you will see a difference in yourself. And it don't have to be meat every time, but if you're buying the right meat from the right place, it is going to taste really, really good, and it is going to be nutritious and healthy for you in the long run.
Yeah, amazing. What a great note to end on. Gareth, thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. We will be in touch because I would love to follow up and really get into the okay, what else can we do to help you guys and to get more people eating like we've just been talking about. So thank you so much for your time, and speak to you again soon. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.